Ron Levine of Sarasota, Florida. Tell us your story.
Last year about this time, was looking for something to do, so I went out and I got my insurance license, and I wound up going to work for a couple of different IMOs, but one of them was FFL, Family First Life. What I was told when I was brought into them, I'd be given some leads, I'd be given all the training, I would have access to all of the companies that they sell for, and honestly, none of it wound up happening. Oh God, I don't even know how many thousands of dollars on ads trying to make this thing go. Every time I hit my upline, asking them for help on what am I doing wrong, because clearly, if I'm not making sales, I must be doing something wrong. They just didn't have time for me. There was no training. Their training was go make phone calls. That's not particularly helpful. That's not going to help somebody make sales. I was told also that I needed to spend anywhere from like $750 to $1,500 a week, and I had just got done with several years of being off work due to fighting lymphoma. I didn't have to buy leads a couple $100s at a time, which meant I wasn't getting the A leads. I was getting the F leads, the 50-cent, $2 leads. There was a number of things that really bothered me about it. Number one, they lied to me. They said they'd give me training. That was a lie, plain and simple. It never happened. Number two, they told me they'd give me some leads to help get me started. That was a lie. It never happened. Number three, I would have all of the companies and all of the ability to be able to sell policies to my potential clients. That was a lie. I was not given access. I was very, very disappointed with the whole thing, because another piece that they don't tell you, let's say you buy the A and AA leads, and you're paying anywhere from $35 to $75 a piece. You don't own them. Those lead companies are going to turn around and sell them to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy until every penny that they can. Because you don't own the leads, you're not able to spend a reasonable amount of time doing follow-up, follow-through, which anybody in sales knows and understands. That's where you make your money. You don't make it up front at the initial discussion. You make it on the tail end when you're following up. You've got 200 or 300 leads in your system, making phone calls and touching base with them and letting them know you're still around. But because they resell the leads, you can't do that because that person's now been contacted by 4 or 5 other people. In my humble opinion, the way that it's being run is unethical. It's legal, but just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
Ron, let me jump in.
Sure.
If a company or a person says something to you which convinces you to pull money out of your pocket, and if that's not true, that's considered fraud. You may not know this, but I'll tell you, there's a class action lawsuit against Family First Life right now. You could see it online. Lead fraud as well as fraud on the promises of releasing. Those are the 2 allegations mentioned on the class action lawsuit. There are leaders of the class that are needed in the 50 states in order to take advantage of the extra benefits that victims of fraud get, as long as they have one leader of the class in every state. You're more than welcome to peruse that, which is on the NAAIP website.
I was told I was going to be given some leads to get started. I was told I would be given some training to get started. The whole thing, just very unfortunate situation. When I went to college, if I was in a class and that class had a 95% failure rate, I wouldn't be blaming the students. I'd be looking at the teacher. The insurance industry as an industry has a 95% failure rate. I'd be willing to bet you that FFL and other groups of their ilk have a much higher failure rate. They just churn and burn.
Family First Life and companies that specialize in mortgage protection, final expense, building a team, the people I've spoken to, it's substantially higher fail rate than the traditional companies such as New York Life, Mass Mutual, Northwest Mutual. It's night and day. The average is 95%. It has to be pushing 100%. If you look at the YouTube channel playlist that NAIP has, which is collecting witnesses for the class action lawsuit against Family First Life, you'll understand that this is systemic. And you mentioned to me before the call of the evidence, the witnesses who are coming out and telling you exactly what happened to them, including Senior Vice President Greg Birch, high-up person in the management, Tyra Hamilton, a former FFL major player who now owns a major call center, Andrew Holler. They're all saying the same thing. It's much worse than you believe it is right now.
That doesn't surprise me. Everybody that I talked to that had come into Family First Life and the other IMO that I had been a part of, you get to know the people and whatnot and share. Everybody's story is the same. We're all just flat out lied to. I'm sorry, but I'm not okay with that. I don't think that's okay. It shows an incredible lack of integrity, and it's not a moral or ethical business. Legality's notwithstanding, it's just not right.
I beg to differ when you say, hey, let's blame these people. Let's not blame ourselves. I've spoken to dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds and hundreds of insurance agents. For the most part, the people who come into the insurance industry who fail are not successful people before they start, or even in worse shape after they leave the industry a few $1,000s later in their bank account. When I speak to them specifically, say, hey, why didn't you file a lawsuit? I might as well say to them, why don't you climb Mount Everest? The most part, these are scared of the written word, have a phobia against filing something with the proper authorities, which is the government. Government runs a court system. The class action lawsuit, which is filed against Family First Life, it has to get certified as a class. It ends up going to trial in California, goes specifically focused on lead fraud, which is a small part of the equation. How many months were you in Family First Life?
I was in it a total of about probably a month and a half. The thing is, I'm not uneducated. I have run my own businesses for many, many years. I was a business consultant for 25 years. I know what it takes to successful business. I know what it takes to make sales. I'm very good at what I do. And that's what I'm doing now, is I just went back to that world. I looked at the whole way possible that it could go wrong.
How much money did you spend on leads during this 6-week period?
I don't have an exact dollar amount, but I would be willing to say probably upwards pretty close to anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000.
How many sales did you make?
One.
How many years ago was this?
This time last year. That sale was for $350. I kept going back to the people that were supposedly successful, saying, hey, clearly I'm doing something wrong here. What am I missing? And they didn't answer it.
Seriously suggest you go through the playlist, the NAIP YouTube linked website, but it's on YouTube. Watch those video testimonials. You will realize, as I've realized, that it's systemic. It wasn't an accident that you spent, say, $10,000 in 6 weeks and got nothing for it. Family First Life also got cease and desist specifically on the exaggerations, expectations that they were giving people like you. I've seen all over LinkedIn and Facebook. Did you see those ads before you joined Family First Life?
I do want to make a correction here in just a minute when I answer this question, after I answer this question. When I joined Family First Life, I had been with a prior IMO. They were doing the same thing. And the only reason why I switched over is because I had met a gal who was in Family First Life, and she wound up being the person that brought me in. She was like, oh yeah, we're wonderful. We do this, we do that, and so on and so forth. She was very convincing. Like I say, after I got in, it was not what I was promised. And the thing that I want to correct, I don't believe that it was quite that much over a month and a half. I believe it was about that much over the total time that I had my license. So I want to be very clear on that. Words do matter. Over the month and a half that I was with Family First, I probably spent somewhere in the neighborhood of like $2,500 to $3,000.
I certainly suggest what you would do is look at the evidence against Family First Life, look at the witnesses, and head over to the local courthouse. Not only get that lead money back, but your time and effort. Triple damages. Let's say you're an average American, $60,000 a year. You're not an average person, but let's say you're average. $5,000 a month, $7,500 for that week period. You triple that, triple your lead. Let's say $10,000. You're talking $30,000. The legal team that would be coming against you earning over $1,200 an hour. You could do the math. You could do the logic as well as anyone. Sean Mikey, the person who recruited you, the entire hierarchy, explained to the judge or the jury what happened. And I believe you will be successful because there's a tremendous amount of evidence that I'm aware of.
But if nothing else, even if nothing came back to me, as long as they are prevented from doing this in the future, other people, I'm okay with that too. I don't want to see anybody deal with what I dealt with.
The Federal Trade Commission, who gave them the cease and desist, $43,000 fine if you do it one more time, exaggerating to the public those numbers of expected income. That's not going to stop it. The class action lawsuit, which has to get certified as a class, goes to trial in a year or two. You get a result in, let's say, 3 years. That's not going to stop it. According to the class action lawsuit, Family First Life earns between $3 and $4 million per week. Again, if no one files, this will continue. I did speak to a gentleman named Mark C.S., who's in Orlando. He'll be filing. You're more than welcome to compare notes. You're more than welcome to compare techniques. One could be a witness for the other person as well, since you're not that far away. According to Greg Birch, Senior VP, Senior Vice President, Family First Life, who is one of the leaders of the class action lawsuit, his quote is, thousands of insurance agents spent thousands of dollars and made 0 sales. Ron, you are relatively fortunate that you made 1 sale. Did they stick on the books for the entire year?
No, they bounced out after the first month.
So you got no money?
Basically, yeah.
Ron, you did mention that when this happened, you were in the state of Missouri. So hypothetically, you could be the leader of the class in the state of Missouri for the class action, but I have to tell you, the class actions won't solve anything for another couple of years. I'm not sure what the laws are on the legalities if a fraud happened in Missouri and you now live in Florida, but it is a national company which does business in Florida. They do business in Missouri. Each courthouse has a clerk of court. You speak to that clerk of court. They do have workshops to help out citizens like yourself. Probably not a bad idea to sue the entire hierarchy, including all the people that influence you to empty out your bank account. Definitely want those witnesses to show up, because if you have a whole hierarchy explaining to the judge, most likely they'll tell the truth. Tyra Hamilton, she was specifically talking about the integrity deal, which you may have heard of.
No.
It's a way to encourage the uplines to become lead sellers.